Hello, everyone, and welcome to my cruddy opinions. Our good friend Toady ZZZ just made a tier list video for all the content that has ever come out for City Skylines and challenged her viewers to do the same. And I've got opinions. Oh boy, do I have opinions. So rather than having a simple tier list post, I'm actually going to record my thoughts here. I'm sure that absolutely nobody will care about my self-importance here, but I wanted to give my thoughts on a lot of the things that had come out and illustrate the difference between where the previous ranking is and where mine stands. A little bit about me. First of all, I started playing the game in early 2022, so I am a very new player, relatively speaking. I've been playing it very intensely since. I value function. Aesthetics are great, but if something does not contribute to the gameplay experience, I am probably going to torch it, especially if it contains mechanics that are awful. Bad mechanics are worse than no mechanics and purely aesthetic. And you're going to see that when I go through here. So let us start with City Skylines, the base game. Now, I have to try to base my opinion on what City Skylines was like before I added any of the DLC to it. And going in, knowing my experience with like old school SimCity and what I found refreshing about City Skylines and what was frustrating, and realizing that I had to start over a bunch of times to finally get a city that works because of mechanics issues, because of learning the UI, etc. There was definitely a learning curve involved. I think that the base game is good. I think it lays the foundation. I'm not going to immediately bump it to the top. I'm going to put it in 8 out of 10. You'll notice, by the way, I do not use S, A, B, C, D. I think that that's, first of all, not enough different levels of variegation, but also I think that having S at the top is incredibly stupid unless you are in a school in Japan. So I will not be using S, A, B, C. If anything, I would start with A at the top, but we are going to move on now to the deluxe edition. Now, the deluxe edition added a bunch of stuff. I have to find it. Where is it? Because I don't even know what was included in the deluxe edition. Where is it? Control F Deluxe. Where are you? There. Okay. So the deluxe edition contains some historic monuments, soundtrack, apparently, and the art book. I basically never use any of this. Once in a great while, I'll throw in one of the unique buildings, but it doesn't do anything for me. I don't care about an art book. I love soundtracks, but I don't need to have it included with the game. I can just look it up on YouTube. So this is going in 4 and below because I really don't care about it. All right, now we're going to continue on with skipping ahead from the DLC to the content that is other. Pre-order. Where's pre-order? I don't know much about the pre-order. Oh, here we go. Basketball court, botanical garden, bouncy castle, carousel park, dog park. Those are all great to have. And prior to some of the recent additions, as far as creating variety in your park choices, they were amazing. The basketball court, and I assume that it's related to the tennis court as well. I don't know where the tennis court comes in. Excuse me. So I see these as being very useful. I used to use the carousel park constantly because it was the highest entertainment value out of all the 5x5 parks. It looked a little weird to have that, and so I started switching over to using the dog park more, but hey, that's part of this too. So the pre-order, as far as I know, this was just kind of included in the game for free, at least when I got to it. I don't know how that works, but I'm going to put this reasonably high because I think it's good, but it's not amazing, but it was effectively free, so I'm going to go 9 out of 10 on that. Okay, next up we have Stadiums, the pack. Not like, not the recent sports venues, but regular old stadiums. So it adds football clubs to the game and one actual stadium. I'm gonna have a real hot take here. I don't really like it. The stadium that they add is okay, but like there are two stadiums in the base game as unique buildings, and so this just creates a third one, which it does look a little different. There are other stadiums that come along down the path. Um, People cheering and getting upset because of the stadium of the sports teams winning, losing is kind of whatever. I really don't care about this. And honestly, the cardinal sin that this commits is every time that I open up my unique buildings, there's this extra tab and it's right at the beginning and it annoys the hell out of me. So even though this is free, I'm putting this in 5 out of 10. All right, then we get to Art Deco. Where is Art Deco? I don't even know what Art Deco includes because I thought it was just like a couple buildings. Yes, 3 unique buildings at Ecovanago, Pinot Street, and the Majesty, which are kind of whatever. And then some residential buildings and commercial, apparently, that I don't even notice. They're just mixed in with everything else. So I really don't even notice the Art Deco. The 3 unique buildings are okay. They're kind of weirdly sized. One of them is an Empire State Building. The one that looks like it should be like this big sprawling complex is really not that much of anything, and then I forget what the third one is. We're going 5 out of 10 here because I'm probably underrating those subtle included buildings as variety. All right, pearls. So if we go to the Pearls of the East, we have 3 buildings: Chinese Temple, Panda Zoo, and Shanghai Pearl Tower. Shanghai Pearl Tower is good. I like it. I use it from time to time. The other two are, well, they're interesting, but I have difficulty figuring out how to slot them into my city gracefully. And that's all it contains. So I can't, in good conscience, give this a whole lot. So I'm going to give this a 5. I skipped one. I skipped high-tech buildings, which contains a whole lot of buildings that I never use. Like, seriously, the cryopreservatory, the intelligence agency, the medical lab, the wait. Does anyone even remember that those are in the game? And then the 10 unique buildings it adds, I never use them. I think I've used the television station on occasion. The others I've never touched. So, like, I've recently started using the faculty building occasionally, but this really doesn't add anything that I care about at all. So we're gonna go, yeah, 5 out of 10. I'm gonna have a lot of 5 out of 10s for kind of indifference. Next up, we've got European Suburbia. So European Suburbia adds a theme, which uh, is useful for creating variety. Eventually, your city starts to look very samey, so I appreciate having it. I didn't necessarily need it, but I got it through a humble bundle, so I'm not upset that I have it. I think it contributes to the game, and I do use it. So in that regard, I'm going to put this in 6 out of 10. University City adds a whole bunch of buildings, allegedly, but I wouldn't know. Like, even when I put in a campus, I have no idea what the University City buildings look like. So, uh, in the absence of any awareness of what it actually does for my game, I have to put in 4 and below. It's just like, well, it's not actively bad, so I guess we'll give it a 5. But nah, I'll stick to my guns here. I don't see what it adds. Modern City Center is uh, another theme, and I use it from time to time, so I'm going to put it right where I put European Suburbia. Modern Japan is a bunch of unique buildings that are nice to have just for variety, to be able to put in, hand place a few things like restaurants. And the one thing it does have, it has like a car service center that I haven't found anywhere else. But mostly what I use it for is some of the like downtown office building looking things. I will often incorporate that into a section of the city that I put with city hall, and like the courthouse and things like that. So it has use. It doesn't have a lot of use, but it has some use. I'm going to put that in 6 out of 10 as well. Bridges and piers. Bridges and piers, I forget about the bridges entirely. I never even remember they're there. When I see content creators using them, I look at them, I go, oh, hey, that's neat, but I forget about them. For me, the quays, the keys are the useful part of this. And being able to not only put in key walls, but to have them, look different than the original one. There's some cool things you can do with it, especially if you have key anarchy. I think that this is useful. Not amazing, but useful. So I'm going to put this in 6. Train stations. So the original train station that comes with the game and the metro station are very, very limited. The train stations that you get from this pack add a tremendous amount of flexibility and variety to the way that you look, to the way that you can bring lines together. Being able to just use the big metro hub that has the 5 lines in it is amazing. In that regard, I have to give this one a good rating. This is going up into either 8 or 9. I will go 8 out of 10 on that one. Maybe I should go 9, but I got to leave some room for, well, okay, content creator packs. We'll go 9. Vehicles is a big fat whatever. I do not care. I do not notice. Vehicles are too small for me to give one hoot about. If you want to put something in the city, it needs to be something you can recognize and spot from a distance. If you have to zoom in all the way to the micro level, it's not worth it to me. And I don't own it either. But even if I did, I wouldn't use it. Map Pack 1. The original map pack has a bunch of new maps that are really great. I've put time in on just about all of them at some point, and they really add to the game. They're significantly better than most of the base game maps, and therefore this one's going straight to 10 out of 10. Mid-Century Modern is yet another theme. It definitely adds a new vibe to it. I bought this one just recently, but and it does add a little bit of other stuff with some props and things. Actually, the props are kind of annoying because they clutter up the menus. I wish that I could rearrange things so that those did not get in the way of me looking at some of the other things. Seaside Resorts. I don't own it, so I have to put this down here. Heart of Korea, same deal. Skyscrapers, I don't own, but at the same time, that's an intentional decision. I chose not to purchase it because of the fact that all the buildings are unique. And I usually like to be able to put in buildings like that more than once. Granted, I can use mods and clone it, but I don't care for the fact that it's single use. The buildings are nice, though. I will concede that they're nice, and I feel like I do have a sense of what this actually includes. So I will go 6 out of 10 with respect for the quality of the buildings themselves. Then we get to Map Pack 2. Well, so Map Pack 1 was great. Everything about Map Pack 1 I loved. Map Pack 2, not so much. Map Pack 2 has 9 maps, one of which is universally liked by people, Bay of Rivers. I like Table Mountains. And the rest of the maps are a big fat kind of, why do I want to play on this? And the bigger issue is that, like, some of the maps are designed to look really pretty, but have no functionality whatsoever. It's like atrocious to build a city on them. And some of them have plenty of space to build, but they look so incredibly boring. And the cardinal sin that Map Pack 2 really creates is all the ridiculous, stupid, esoteric, non-functional interchanges. I get annoyed when Egg talks about interchanges when he does map previews, but in this case, it's warranted because they don't even connect in all directions. Like, if you trace and follow, you will find that a lot of those maps, the interchanges are not functional and they're weird looking too. So I can't give this a high rating, but there are a couple valuable maps that I have played on, so I can't torch it completely. Therefore, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. All right, Africa, don't own it. Shopping malls is a pack that is very nice. It adds some really cool assets and it adds a new theme. The only problem with the assets is that they're unique. And so I find myself not using them because I'm fearful that I may want them somewhere else later. And as a result, I end up don't I just don't use the shopping malls. Um, Conceptually, it's great in function. I would love to be able to put those, at least the grocery stores, in multiple different places and the strip malls, but I can't do that. So we'll put it ahead of the other themes by a little bit, but it's getting a 7 out of 10. Sports and venues. Okay, 10 out of 10. Don't need to say anymore. The stadiums aren't even why I buy it. It's the ball fields, the local parks that allow you to break up your area. And of course, they have great entertainment value as well. But the fact that you can put in actual ball fields in your local parks, that is what makes it amazing. All right, Brooklyn and Queens. Don't own it. If I were to give it a rating, it probably wouldn't be terribly high because even though it is a theme, it's also a theme that is very samey, and I think I would get bored of it very quickly. Industrial Evolution, I did pick up just recently. It's a little too new for me to evaluate, but since it is a theme and since I do own it, I will give it a 6. I did choose to buy it as opposed to the other ones, which I got out of the Humble Bundle pack. So maybe I should give it a little bit of an extra nod. It does add more to our industry. So you know what? Yeah, let's push that into 7. And then Railroads of Japan. Um, I'm too new to Railroads of Japan to give this a good evaluation, but my instinct tells me to put it here at 7. It has some new hubs which are okay, but it also has a lot of other ancillary assets to it, which are kind of nice. And whenever the content pack contains other stuff beyond its theme, I definitely take a look at those, and sometimes they are the reason why I buy them. So that takes care of the non-major DLC. Now let's go to the actual download thingamajiggers. Scroll past the radio stations. We should talk about the radio stations. Actually, you know what? Hot take. Let's talk about the radio stations real quick. Um, Relaxation Station is okay. The DJ is kind of boring. There's one song on it, Ladies Chill, that I really like. The rest of it's just okay. Rock City Radio, I listen to a lot. The DJ is not obnoxious, and the songs are really good. All That Jazz, do I have that one? I don't know if I have a jazz station. Is it that one? I'm gonna skip that one. Country Road Radio is surprisingly good. I am not into country music, but I actually really like listening to CRR, so that gets a thumbs up from me. Synthetic Dawn, I do like the style of music that's included, but I'm not super into the music in Synthetic Dawn. It's okay. It also has a DJ that's very, very bland and kind of whatever. Campus Radio, Claudia Couture is annoying as heck, but the music is great. So Campus Radio is probably the one I've listened to the most. Deep Focus, or maybe that's the one that has the really boring DJ. I don't remember. There's a couple here that are kind of whatever. And the music for Deep Focus doesn't compel me to listen to it. Downtown Radio has an interesting DJ. The music's okay. Or oh, I'm thinking of Coast to Coast. I get these so confused. Sunny Breeze has a DJ who is very calm and soothing, but incredibly neurotic, and has music that is calm and soothing. Railhawk. Railhawk. Okay, yeah, I'm just confusing these. I should probably stop talking about them, especially since the ones after that I don't own. So, all right, interlude over. Let's talk about After Dark. After Dark was the first DLC that I bought. I had the game gifted to me, and then the person who gifted it to me also bought one of the DLCs that they liked. But the first one that I chose to buy for myself was After Dark because I wanted the bike paths. And the fact that it adds so much else, After Dark was very much a kitchen sink uh, DLC because it was the first one and they had all these things they needed to throw in the game that didn't come with it at launch. So After Dark gets at least a 9. I could put it in 10 maybe, but definitely a 9. Snowfall. Okay. So Snowfall gives you 5 maps that you can use with snow themes. And if you are not playing one of those 5 themes, this DLC gives you virtually nothing. There are 3 things that carry over outside of the snow maps, and they are number 1, trams, which of course is the reason that most people buy it. Snowfall should be called Trams the DLC. You pay $15 just to get trams. 2, the sauna. Saunas are good. I like using the sauna. Excuse me. And then the third reason thing that actually carries over, and this is a big fat negative for me, is the heat mechanic. I hate the heat mechanic. I wish that it went away when you're not playing on a snow map, but it doesn't once you have Snowfall installed. You are stuck with it, and randomly your energy needs are going to spike just because it gets cold, to the extent that I use a mod and change every map that I play on to tropical just so that doesn't happen. And I shouldn't have to do that. For a while, I was actively playing with Snowfall deactivated because I didn't want to deal with it, and because I felt like trams were kind of superfluous with streetcars. Now, they've added a lot to trams since, especially when plazas and promenades came along. And so it was a little harder to ignore trams at that point. But up until that point, I just said, well, I've got streetcars. Why do I care? So Snowfall doesn't add much other than trams, and it has a negative aspect to it. So I would be inclined to give it 4 and below. For trams alone, I will put it in 5. That is as far as I can take it, though, because everything else about Snowfall is either ambivalent or strictly negative. All right. Match Day. Match Day counts as a DLC. I don't even know what's in Match Day. I'm gonna not look that one up and not care. Natural disasters. When I was a kid, I played SimCity. And the best part of SimCity is unleashing Godzilla on your city and having him wreak havoc. The disasters in City Skylines are not Godzilla. They are annoying to deal with. They come in randomly and decimate your city. And I have just chosen to never have natural disasters even installed, much less, uh, you know, much less active. The thing about natural disasters is even if you install it, it still adds a ton of menu clutter. And so even if you say, oh, well, you can turn the disasters off. Well, yeah, but not only have you defeated the point of the entire DLC, because it comes with just about nothing else other than like water. You can put water sources onto your map. But, once you have it, then you have fire spreading, which means your parks burn down randomly and you can't do anything about it unless you put in the helicopter firefighters, which you're not going to use otherwise. So I got to go 4 and below on natural disasters. I play with it turned off, not just the natural disasters turned off, but the actual DLC turned off. I almost didn't even redeem the code from the Humble Bundle when I got natural disasters because I didn't want it. I actively do not want it, even more so than Snowfall. Mass transit. Okay, so mass transit's a weird one because on one hand, it adds new transit forms. It adds monorail, it adds cable cars, it adds blimps, and it adds ferries. At this point, I don't really use any of those. Monorails are cool. Cable cars are tremendously underrated. Ferries, I don't ever want to bother with water stuff, honestly. It's just annoying. And ferries don't carry enough for me to make it worth it. And blimps are a meme. So the actual mass transit from mass transit doesn't add a whole lot. I do like having monorail, but the fact that all the useful mass transits forms came in other DLCs, and the ones that came in the mass transit DLC are kind of whatever, is really weird and backwards. If like monorail and cable cars had come with other stuff and we had gotten the trams in mass transit, that would have made a lot more sense. That's the way it probably should have been. Mass transit does add a whole lot of roads though, and those roads do enhance your gameplay experience. So I know that a lot of content creators will, as a controversial pick, put that very high just for the sake of adding 2-lane highways. I think that those are things that should have just been included with the game and you shouldn't have to be acquiring on a premium. So I think that's kind of terrible. Therefore, I'm not going to give mass transit credit for that. I will say that I do occasionally use some of the mass transit, and there's some subtle things that I often forget about. I'm going to put in 7 out of 10. I don't think I can go any higher. Concerts is kind of whatever, but I mean, it does come with a radio station that I'll tune into, so that's cool. And it's basically free, right? So I can't say anything negative about it, but it doesn't contribute to the game either. Green cities, that does contribute to the game. That contributes to it considerably because we get all these different power sources and we get a new hat for Chirper, apparently. But we do get several new, I can't call them themes, what specializations, district specializations. And for a while, I was incredibly hung up on the wonder that is the commerce with the agriculture, whatever it's called, because it doesn't make noise. And for a long time, I was really struggling as a player, learning the mechanics and figuring out how to balance noise pollution. I wanted to mix my commerce with my residential, and I could never do that. Because if you put any appreciable amount of commerce around low density residential, the people get sick. And so I loved the commerce that came with that, simply because it didn't make noise. And then I realized there were some drawbacks to it. But I think that Green Cities also adds a ton of other very good things. It's hard for me to put it any lower than a 9. It should probably be a 10, though. I'm going to put it there. Park Life. Park Life was a DLC that before I got it, I tremendously undervalued it. I was like, why do I care that much? I mean, it'd be really cool to put in an amusement park or something, but I didn't appreciate just how much I would end up using this. Park Life is a 10. Industries. So Industries was that DLC that my friend bought for me. And it's good. It adds to the game. It adds a new mechanic, a new layer to how to play the game. It allows you to circumvent yellow tile industry. The industries do have a few drawbacks. The biggest one is traffic. The second is the mechanics related to that and how you have to go from a producing tile to a store facility to a production facility to either exporting or putting in a warehouse. And that adds even more to the traffic. The traffic is ridiculous and the logistics are ridiculous. And then the buildings, many of them are very large, and the ones that aren't, there's often a time where I go, why is this so big and this so small? Like the farm barracks are tiny, but the forestry barracks are enormous. And there's that inconsistency there that makes it hard to plan just how to build these things. I feel like you need to play these with a really free-form build, and you need to be very cautious about where you put your silos and equivalent buildings. Industries is very tricky to work with, and if I'm being completely honest, other than the aesthetics of going, oh, look, a farm, I don't think it adds that much. It does add, the 3 other industry types, but they're kind of, aesthetically, they're kind of whatever. Mechanically, they all are just kind of there, and they're an alternative, but I feel like I have all kinds of headaches with them. So even though I like the novelty, I do have to knock this down a little bit. I'm going to go 8 out of 10 on Industries. Speaking of horrible mechanics, though, Campus. Campus is... I want to like Campus. I really want to like Campus. Campus does not like me, is what it comes down to. First of all, the unlocking mechanic in Campus is dreadful. It is hard time gated in such a way that you cannot get to a higher tier quickly. If you've got like a really built up city and you just want to throw down a universe, you can't do it. You have to very painstakingly wait year after year for those academic works to come in. And even then, nobody attends your freaking university. I have to jump through so many hoops to get people to attend, and even then, the attendance is still incredibly low. the ability to put more than one of these in a city is laughable. And the buildings are enormous, which sometimes is good and sometimes is bad. But the thing that makes it really bad is that if you're not building your campus on perfectly level ground, like you went out of your way to make everything incredibly flat beforehand, the ground just tears everywhere. It looks like garbage. So there's mechanics issues, there's aesthetics issues. Campus is a hot freaking mess, and it is just so much simpler to just throw down a university building for 4,500 students than it is to bother with one of these. It's just not worth the time, unless you want to see that visually on your city, at which point it's good. But mechanics hurt it so much, I'm putting it at 5 out of 10. Now, speaking of DLCs that I have a very different take than you might expect, Sunset Harbor is very, very valuable to me. It has water treatment plants, inland water treatment plants, and that alone carries this very, very much. There's also a bunch of new hubs that got added. This has trolley buses, which normally people don't value that highly, but I do because it means I don't have to worry about snowfall. And fishing, I don't really care about. Fishing is just kind of a bonus, but the trolley buses add a meaningful transit for me, and the inland water treatment plants are fantastic, and there's a few other things that it adds as well. And so I really like Sunset Harbor. I know that it doesn't really contain that much, but just for the ease of convenience, I need to put it up at a 9. Airports is the only one of the major DLCs that I do not own. So what does that tell you? I did not buy it because I don't see any point to buy it. You have to get to a certain point in your city before it becomes meaningful to build an airport, and it looks like it's a chore to work with, and I just don't value having an airport. Granted, the base game airports are kind of as well. You don't get that many tourists coming in on them. The circulation with them is kind of questionable, and so is the implementation of the planes, because you can put them in places where they should by all rights be flying directly into buildings. But the airport's DLC, I don't see any reason to grab it. If we were going to talk about which of these are best bang for your buck, airports would not be high on the list. I'm going to put it down here because I don't own it, and so I'm probably judging it unfairly, but I don't think that it's important. Plazas and promenades is a mixed bag. There are so many great things about plazas and promenades, and then there's mechanics issues that get in the way. The pedestrian areas are kludgy. They are super kludgy. You have to cordon off an area. You have to put in special buildings that allow the area to collect garbage and stuff like that. And only then can you zone on the special roads. But then you can't even put everything on those special roads. There are some things that can't go there, like industry, for one thing. It would be interesting to put some of your industry on in a pedestrian area, or at least adjacent to a pedestrian area, but it doesn't work. I can't put the park life DLC in there, and that's really annoying to me. I would love to just put a city park in the middle of my pedestrian areas. And because of the overhead you have to have to create these, it doesn't make sense to make little small pedestrian areas. You can't just have a Fußgängerstraße. You can't have like a single road somewhere that just has that's closed off and it's only open to pedestrians, which would be really nice to have. And so mechanics hurt it. But I will say that plazas and promenades otherwise is really cool. I think that the art in plazas is gaudy. I think that it's nice to have a change of pace, but I really don't like it. I do like the props that it comes with. I do like the additional parks that it comes with, and I like some of the new transit hubs that it comes with. So it adds a tremendous amount to your game. In addition to that, I also really like the maps that it comes with. We're not talking about the maps that come with these, but Plazas and promenades, I really like the maps, like pretty much across the board. So in that regard, PNP is going to go to 9. Financial districts does not add much to the game. It adds a theme, and then it adds a mini game that's kind of annoying. So I'm just going to treat it as a theme and put it in 6 out of 10. And I'm going to call it a day. Now, hotels and retreats is the new one. And this is another case where the mechanics are getting in the way. Just like campus really trips on its own foot, hotels is so gated. You can't just put in the big hotels like you would want. Like if this was just, oh, you have a new tab with 15 hotels and you can pick and choose and stick them down. But there's this mini game associated with them, and to get to the higher levels, you have to put in like 10,000 of the lower level ones, and you have to build around the hotels. You can't even like put them in after the fact. If it was that you could build a neighborhood and then stick a hotel in, great, but you have to build a hotel and then construct a neighborhood around it. And that I find really annoying, especially because you don't just do that once, you have to do it like 6 or 7 times before you can even unlock the next tier. So the hotels aspect of hotels and retreats so far to me has been incredibly disappointing. I am very tempted to, if I want to use them, to just turn on unlock all so that I can put in whatever I want and not care. That said, though, it does come with some parks, and the parks are amazing. Parks are really great. You now have a 2x3 park and a 2x4. I guess one is a 4x2. Those little parks are good space filler and they're fantastic. The only downside to them is that they do have to be put on a road, and I would have loved if they could have been put along a pedestrian path, because they do lend themselves very naturally to being in sort of the center of a large commons area. And so do some of the larger parks that come with it as well. They look stunning, and I wish I could use them the way I want to, but I can't. So Hotels and Retreats is a pack that can't get out of its own way. It adds some cool stuff, but ultimately this is going to go in, well, I don't want to have another row of 6 out of 10. I'll give it 7 out of 10 just for the sake of not having the tier overflow. But this is going to be my list. You can see I have a very different rundown than Toady did, and probably anyone else will, but this is going to be my list. Thank you for watching.